So this new moon in Virgo is a threshold moment for us. It's an invitation to look at the patterns that are holding you back and to begin taking those and clearing it out. It's an invitation to also see that we're ready to step into a completely new version of yourself that is free from the things that inhibit you from experiencing a deeper connection to life, a deeper connection to a sense of meaning or purpose. This solar eclipse brings this threshold and it invites us to cross it. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you exactly how you might be arriving to that threshold by going through the 12 astrological houses and giving you something practical to think about as you embrace and go through this eclipse. So I just wanted to quickly make an announcement. On the previous video, when I created the whole entire video, I'd put the 27th of September, but in actual fact, just to be clear, it's the 21st of September. So it's happening on Saturday. Okay. Now, before we go into explaining what the houses are, it's very important for those of you that are unfamiliar or just new to astrology to be able to understand exactly what's happening here. Okay, so I'm going to do this over here for us first. So understanding your Virgo placement, what you want to be doing is you want to be looking for this symbol in your astrology chart. Okay, so finding Virgo in your chart, it looks like this. Okay, that's what the Virgo symbol looks like. It's like a tail coming inwards. The second thing, and this is something that I encourage you to do, is go to an astrology software that can draw up a chart or a chart creator and go and put in your birth details, your time and your date of birth, etc. And then if there's an option to select a house system, my encouragement to you is to use the porphyry house system because it's the one that is used in evolutionary astrology, okay? Like the most widely used one. And the reason why porphyry house system is the suggestion, and when you select it, it's just simply because it divides the houses and the space evenly, and it also is aligned with how the geometry of our consciousness works. In other words, the sphere of the 360 degrees. So it's a house system that makes it super clean, super easy, and my direct experience has been that it provides incredible accuracy with your life. Of course, you're free to use whatever house system you use, but if you're wanting to deepen your understanding of evolutionary astrology, I encourage you to choose that house system. Okay. Then the second thing is that this new moon is going to be landing at 29 degrees, okay? And I need you to know that in the astrology chart, the signs, there are 30 degrees in a sign. So 30 from 1 all the way to, or from 0 to 30, okay? So 29 being right at the end of the Virgo sign. So when you're looking for that Virgo, you want to be looking right at the end, okay? And I've got a chart reference over here. This is what it looks like if you're trying to locate this solar eclipse that's landing at 29 degrees Virgo. This is what it would look like, roughly when you're trying to find that in your chart, okay? So does that make sense? You're looking for the 29 degree mark. You're looking for this symbol over here. And again, if you're, drawing up your chart over there and you're wanting to use a more evolutionary astrology approach, select the house system porphyry when you're drawing up your chart, okay? All right. So that's that. Now, of course, what's also important here is that I'm going to go through the houses and you'll see that there is timestamps relative to the house placement. So once you've located or identified what house your planet, your solar eclipse is landing in, you then want to go and watch that section of this video, okay? So yeah. Now, for those of you that are actually called to want to study with me and work with me on a lot deeper basis, like actually go and explore your astrology charts in a deeper way, again, we have the Learn Your Chart Immersion that is currently open at the moment. It's at a reduced price, and it's also available during this eclipse portal that we're experiencing right now. It's also a full integration course of your entire astrology chart, and it also includes a one-to-one conversation with me. And I encourage you to stick to or go to the end of the video once you've watched your houses, because there's a message there as well that I want to share with you. Okay, so once you've watched the house placement, also go and check the message at the end of the video because I'm summarizing everything for us. All right. So the Learn Your Chart Immersion, there's a link in the description. Go check that out. There's a whole entire page dedicated to why I do that and why it's there. All right. I think it's time for us to now go into the breakdown of the houses by houses. The way I've done this is you'll see that there is 3 sections. Okay. What's the lesson, right? What's being revealed? What pattern? What's the challenge for you? Like, what's the challenge that's going to be presented? And then what's the deeper purpose of the solar eclipse? So that's how I've broken this down into segments for us. Okay. All right. So let's get straight into it. Okay. So for us right now, we have the first house of the astrology chart. So if this is for you that has the solar eclipse standing in the first house, this is what it's going to look like, right? This is where you're looking for the solar eclipse. It's going to be right at the end, probably of, well, generally not right at the end, but that's what you're looking for. Okay. So if that's what you've located, that's the house placement. That's what it looks like. This is the conversation for you. All right. So, of course, the first house has to do with the way that you take up space within your life. And I want you to really think about that. Like, how do you take up space in your life? How do you let other people know that your presence is available, that it is here, that you do exist? The Aries first house energy is very much how we arrive to the moment and how we take up space and say, yeah, this is me. Okay. So the lesson for you with this solar eclipse is returning to your own rhythm and reclaiming presence over performance. So what I mean by this is that you are, the lesson here is coming into your own natural way of and your own choice making and your own sense of autonomy, right? What is your rhythm about? What is your cycle about? What is your presence about? How do you arrive to each moment? Has it been conditioned by the structures of your life? Do you shy away or not take up space because you feel a sense of lack or inadequacy, or that there's a criticism pattern that you're running behind the scenes, right? You're returning to what might be natural for you versus what you've probably maybe taken on board from other people and adjusted yourself to try to match how you want other people to see you. And that's probably coming from a deep vulnerability and insecurity within yourself. So reclaim that presence and remove the performative behavior that you think that you need in order to feel sort of welcomed or received. Okay. So the challenge is going to be this: letting go of managing your image or identity to stay safe and accepted. Pretty much what I've been sharing here. Yeah. Very clear. This is about you breaking down the schisms, breaking down any belief systems that you hold about yourself, and allowing your image to be as authentic and as true to you as possible. The deeper purpose that's going to come with this energy, okay, is the rebirth of the self through authenticity. Okay, the rebirth of the self through authenticity, to inhibit your body and to live life without apology. That's the deeper purpose here. You're coming into all experiences with, this is who I am. You're breaking down, this is who I'm not. And you're living with more presence and less apologetic energy. Okay. So that's for the first house, right? So if you've got this over here, reflect on this over here. Okay. Now let's move along to the second house. So for you, if you're watching this over here, this is where the solar eclipse will be landing in your second house of your astrology chart. That's what it's going to look like. And it's got the Virgo sign there, okay? So let's go discover what this is for you. All right. So the second house has to do with the instinct of preservation, okay? How do I survive? And then on top of that, we build a lens of values of what we need. And then on top of that, we then prioritize those values so that we can survive. So the lesson here for us with this eclipse is going to be clarify what truly sustains you, realign your values with your daily choices. Super simple, right? What is the most important value that you have? And how can you continue to keep supporting that value or set of values so that your life gets built around authenticity? Clarify what truly sustains you. Look around you in your life and see what is excess, what is not, what is important to you, what is not. Start to understand the value that you associated with it, and then begin to stack your priorities in alignment so that your day is in honoring of those priorities. That's what I mean when I say realign your values to your daily choices. Now, the challenge that comes along with this is going to be this, right? Letting go of attachments that no longer reflect your truth, including survival patterns around money and self-worth. Okay? So the solar eclipse is really bringing you into that sense of like, if you have any values or any attachments that are still rooted in a depreciation of yourself, anything that is undervaluing your value, you want to be analyzing those patterns and you want to be saying, thank you very much, they're no longer for me. Okay? And you want to be allowing yourself to clinically cut that out and to, again, clarify what sustains you and honor that consistently. Get your priorities in line so that you strengthen yourself. Okay. Third one, the deeper purpose. To root into self-worth that isn't conditional. To live in alignment with your real needs. You feel that. You feel that, right? To live in alignment with your real needs. The solar eclipse is exposing where we have put aside what has been important for us. And so living in the state of conditional self-worth, it means creating exchanges with other people or scenarios or circumstances and denying what is actually valuable or important for you. The solar eclipse is a recalibration to coming into a deeper alignment, right, with what your real needs are, and then stacking the priority of meeting those needs every single day. Okay? All right. Let's move over to the third house of the astrological chart. And this is what it's going to look like in your chart. This is where you're going to be looking. Third house right at the bottom there, 29 degrees. Okay. So the third house of the astrology chart reflects the part of our world where we develop our worldview. Okay. It's the way that we form our perception of things by the opinions or the facts or the information that we have. So what messages we tell ourselves, what information we have, this updates our worldview and it gives us a sense of connection to the larger scope, right? So the solar eclipse is coming into your third house. It's an invitation to really look at your mental patterns. It's looking at your thought patterns and the way that you analyze and order the world based on your information that you have of it. So the lesson that's going to come along with the solar eclipse is discern truth from noise. Discern truth from noise. Repattern how you speak, learn, and mentally organize your reality. That's the lesson here, right? The solar eclipse wants to bring you into the importance of discerning the truth from the noise. Now, when we have third house energy, we're gathering lots and lots of information and facts, and we can lose touch with what's essential for us. So you're learning here to really clear out what messages belong to you, what messages don't belong to you. What has been said to you in the past that's actually about other people, not about you. Okay? Repattern how you speak. This is about the words you choose to action your reality. Do you speak with a state of grief and feeling of disempowerment, or do you own your truth and speak confidently in how and what you do with your life? Okay? Now, the challenge that's going to come along with this is noticing how anxiety, overanalysis, self-doubt shapes your thoughts or your language. So that's what I was just bringing up earlier, is that the challenge here is to really look at where you might have gathered thoughts, opinions, or there is an overanalysis of the reality and it keeps you stuck in a mental loop, right? You might be attached to an experience of fear, and then you have a story around that fear that keeps looping you into a state of anxiety. This is a deep analysis and an investigation of your own working process of your mind. And it's about eliminating these self-doubt patterns that now you're exposing. So what is the deeper purpose with the solar eclipse, right? Okay. To clear space for clarity, so to remove the noise, to notice where those loops are, both mental and intuitive, to think and speak from presence rather than programming. speak from presence rather than programming. Again, you would have adopted, or you could have, or you have this type of mental structure that's deeply rooted in Virgo processes of self-doubt, over-analysis. You're here to liberate from that and to move into experience and to communicate from experience. What have you gained from the experiences that you've lived in your life? What are your truths that you have become aware of that are built on your experiences of life, right? What's your intuitive insight? Let's go to that place, okay? All right. So let's move back to the chart. Let's go to the 4th house of the astrological chart. And this is for you if you have this solar eclipse landing in your 4th house. Now, again, this is what it will generally look like in your charts. Depends, of course, but you might have 29-degree Virgo sitting over there. Either way, it's in your 4th house. This is what it roughly should look like, okay? Let's go check your insights. So, the 4th house of the astrology chart is the arena of life, or the area of life that shapes your deep emotional foundation. And the way that this works is that if you just look at each and every one of us at some point, well, all of us has grown up in a home where we were present for most of the time, right? That home became a foundational conditioning field for what meant safety, what looked like in terms of how your food operated, what the world is about, etc. Like your personal relations between mom and dad, brother, etc. That 4th house conditions that deep way in which you feel at the core of your being, right? What is the foundation of life? The solar eclipse is coming into this area and it's saying, hey, it's time to start healing where there is misalignment here, right? Where there's been experiences that have left you feeling that insecurity, that instability, or that lack of home. So the lesson here is cleanse and restore the emotional foundation. Listen to what your inner world is asking for. Right? That's the lesson that's being brought up over here. Cleanse and restore the emotional foundation. Right? This is a reset of how the floorboards have been established for you, and it's about restoring and coming into a deeper state of grounding here. Okay? Now, the challenge that comes along with this process is navigating ancestral family conditioning or feeling overwhelmed by inner sensitivity. Navigating ancestral or family conditioning is where the floorboards, right, were originally laid. So this is a very deep experience. To have the solar eclipse land over here is a very deep experience because it's asking you to drop into the deeper, more unconscious layers of your emotional expression. And it really wants you to look at what is the core of your emotional world, right? And so this is a very private experience in my eyes. And I think that this is something that you should really be delicate with, because the solar eclipse wants to really expose what might look like on the surface as an emotional trigger, but deep down it might be an unresolved emotional connection to the parent. So you're really looking at where these original foundations were laid, and go back to childhood, go back to your home experience, go back to relationship to the mother and the father archetype, and really see how you've internalized these people, because that will be giving you a tremendous insight into how your emotional fabric has been established, okay? Now, what's the deeper purpose with this all? The deeper purpose is to build an inner sanctuary that reflects who you are now, not who you had to be. That's powerful, right? Who you had to be. Most people, when we're growing up in our home, we're seeing things that are good and seeing things that are bad, what is safe, what is not safe. And so we learn to adapt to the world and start to form ways in which we might hide certain parts of ourselves in fear of it being exposed or being hurt, etc. And so we form certain identity patterns that when we get older actually work against us. So this deeper purpose is building an inner sanctuary, an identity structure, a foundation that is more authentic and more real, because you yourself are recognizing where parts of your identity was formed based on a response to the environment you grew up in, rather than who you actually are today. Okay? So the transition and metamorphosis of your identity structure. Okay. Let's go over to the charts and let's take a look at the 5th house of the astrological wheel. So this is for you who has this solar eclipse landing in your 5th house. This is what it will look like in your chart roughly. And as I said, that's how you can identify it. Okay, so let's go look at what this is about for you. Now, the 5th house has to do with the way that we emotionally and psychologically recognize ourselves. Okay, the 5th house has to say, here I am. This is me. Can you see me? Along the road or along the way, as we develop this sense of self, we need the input from the external environment to almost, in a sense, kind of make that identity concrete. When we grow up, oftentimes we might not have that external validation come to us. So the 5th house has to do with the way that we show up in the world and take up space and say, this is me, this is what I am about, this is my color. Okay? So this solar eclipse has been helping you kind of really get underneath where you have patterns of shame or patterns of hiding yourself or any pattern that you feel a sense of lack towards saying to the world, this is me. Okay. So the lesson here for you is going to be reconnect with the part of you that creates from joy. Reconnect with the part of you that loves to be creative and excited. And what is the thing that makes you feel like you want to wake up every day and say, this is passionate, or this is exciting, or this is what I want to contribute to my life for, right? There's a part of you that exists. Some of you might feel that that's really shut down, and some of you might feel that that's on the verge of wanting to give more attention. Either way, work on allowing that to become more present within your day, okay? In your life. Now, the challenge that's going to come along here is this: facing fears of judgment or shame, or feeling not good enough to express freely. Okay? Facing fears of judgment or shame. Oftentimes when we're growing up and we're saying something that's really important, that matters to us, that we're creatively expression, we're in a vulnerable place sometimes. And when we get some negative feedback, it tells us that it's not safe to do that again. The challenge here is to begin breaking down these patterns and stepping into and owning that part of you, even if sometimes the world was not friendly towards you, okay? Now, the deeper purpose, to allow the flow of authentic creativity to not to impress others, to feel alive. This is kind of like the dynamic of feeling that you need to show up and pretend in order to feel that sense of acceptance. You're not doing that anymore. You're breaking that down. It's part of your karma. You wouldn't have the solar eclipse if it wasn't going to help you stand up to follow your creativity. So that's why the solar eclipse is happening for you. In some way, shape, or form, it's saying, hey, there's a need for the flow of authenticity to be more stronger. So step into it, own that energy, and tell us who you are. Okay. Let's go over to the 6th house of the astrological chart. And this is for you who has the solar eclipse landing in your 6th house. If you can see on the screen, you'll see that there is roughly this is where it should land for you. Okay. Now, if we go over to the 6th house, the 6th house has to do with two major things. One, it has to do with how we process experiences of life that have been difficult to deal with. Okay. It has to do with the way that we are coming into contact with that life itself is not always just made out of beautiful rainbows and, colorful clouds, etc. There's tragedy. There are experiences that don't go away. The 6th house shows us how we are able to experience the contradiction or the messiness of life. It also shows us how we actually come into our state of our health and our routines, where we waste energy in managing our choices poorly. So this 6th house solar eclipse is clearly coming into your life to help you move through any stuck grief, any stuck underlying patterns of guilt or inadequacy. And it's also here to say, hey, if you notice that your body's starting to feel that exhaustion, it's time to try and look at what your routines are. So what's going to be your lesson? Your lesson is going to be this: to simplify, to refine, to clear what is no longer supporting your vitality. That's the routine, the health, the energy part, okay? Simplify, refine, clear what no longer is supporting your vitality. You're going to feel that. You're going to feel this underlying drive, especially because the sun has been moving through this part of your chart for a little bit. the need to really clear out things and create space, simplify things within your life so that you've got more energy and more space to give to the things that you want to do. Yeah? So reprioritization. This also means that you're going to be encountering a challenge. And the challenge is underlying sense that everything needs to be perfect. Martyrdom, which is sometimes a sacrifice. I will do it for the greater good, but then when nobody actually gives me the feedback that appreciates that, it's like, yeah, didn't kind of really work out the way I wanted to. And now you're stuck in that emotional pattern of grief, of sense of lack being identified, right? Otherwise, it's also over-identifying with doing in order to feel worthy. So just let that land for you, right? Over-identifying with doing in order to feel worthy. What are you doing, giving your energy to as a way to say to people, do you see me, right? Do you see how good I'm doing at this? And this is an underlying sense of feeling maybe an underlying lack. You want to clear that out. And you want to clear out the idea of perfectionism and come into acceptance that the world sometimes and things sometimes don't work perfectly. And they break and they collapse. And that's how we learn and grow. Okay? So what is the real deeper purpose of having this solar eclipse land here for you? And it's this, right? To anchor sacred structure. To anchor sacred structure that helps you refine through simplicity, right? To create a rhythm that supports you so that you can be of service from a full cup. Meaning, if you're waking up every day and you're giving, if you want to give like 100% to something, but your routine, your structure, your choices, your priorities are exhausting you, you're never going to achieve that. You're always going to be not arriving to that moment 100%. So what are your priorities? What are the ways that you want to achieve things within your lives, with your life? What is your health telling you? And step away from perfectionism and come into an iterative mindset, right? An adjustment, feedback, grow mindset. Okay. All right, let's go over to the 7th house of the astrological charts. And this is for you if you have this solar eclipse landing in your 7th house. Now, it will roughly look like this. Some of you might have it closer to these descendants there. And some of you might have it over there. Okay. Now, the 7th house has to do with the way that we come into relation with people. And when you look at what a relationship is, it is one person saying, this is who I am, and the other person saying, this is who I am. And then there's an exchange of expectation and needs. And depending on how compatible those expectations and needs are, we find a sense of equilibrium. Now, if your solar eclipse is landing here in the 7th house, you've been working on this dynamic of what is equilibrium by understanding what your needs are, what the expectations are, and then how to work in collaboration with another person. So the lesson that this solar eclipse is bringing you is reassess the balance in your relationships, restore clarity and healthy boundaries. The clarity comes from the recognition that your needs or your expectations might be different from the other person. And so how well do each of you know what those needs and expectations are? That restores better expression of boundaries. Yes, I can do that. No, I cannot. And that allows for the balance to continue, right? Now, the challenge that's going to come along with this solar eclipse is this: letting go of roles or agreements that no longer reflect mutual growth. So as you come into reestablishing and renegotiating how your relationship patterns work, you might find that there are certain parts of you that have had to play out or carry or behave a certain way in order for those expectations and needs to be met. But because you've grown or you've changed or the dynamic in the relationship's changed, you need to also then reorder those expectations and those needs. So this is about you seeing that some parts you've outgrown and you need to release them and then renegotiate new ones. Now, what's the deeper purpose, right? We've got karma. So the deeper purpose is this: to meet others as whole self, right? As your whole self. To be in relation without losing yourself. You'll know that. You'll know that there's a tendency to lose yourself in relationships. There's a tendency to sacrifice your own needs. And so therefore, the deeper purpose here is to be able to show up in relationships with confidence and feel that sense that you can say, this is who I am wholly, and not have the anxiety of losing yourself in relationships. Okay? Cool. All right. Let's move over to the 8th house of the astrological chart. And for those of you that have got this solar eclipse landing in the 8th house, that will be me. It's in the 8th house over here. Okay. Let's go over to what the 8th house is and the representation. So the 8th house of the astrology chart is the part of our life where we are confronted with truths that cannot be hidden. Okay. In other words, this is the realm of your deepest emotional memory. This is the realm of your deepest emotional expression. So you know how they have like detectives that will, look at the body language of something, or they will look at the underlying subtext of a person's expression. That's the 8th house. It's our drives, it's our motivations, it's our deeper core expressions that don't really hide how we actually feel. So the solar eclipse is coming into this area and it's saying, hey, it's time for us to really look at what drives us at the bottom of our core intentions. So the lesson that we're going to experience is this: to face the undercurrents, to name the entanglements, and to call your energy back. Okay. The 8th house has to do with the way that we actually merge with experiences and how we attach ourselves to things. When we attach ourselves to people or to objects or to things, or when we're merging with something, we're giving our energy there as well. Now, part of that energy exchange means, is that supporting and nourishing you? The lesson here is to be able to start looking at what patterns you've formed that puts that energy outwardly and it doesn't give you back. Okay, so it's cutting things away that no longer serve your deeper desires or your deeper purpose. The challenge that going to come along with this experience is that you have to fear, or the fear of confrontation or vulnerability. So remember when I said that it drops you into this deep emotional space where that you can't escape what's really true? Well, that's a state of pure vulnerability, right? Because you're so present with what's raw and real. And it's the fear of going to that place because that could consume you. So letting go of power dynamics that once held you safe. So recognizing that there is going to be a part of you that's going to feel that sensitivity, that's going to feel that vulnerability. You may have adapted or adopted certain coping mechanisms or ways to protect yourself from that part of your energy being seen or heard. And so this solar eclipse wants to really expose where there's any patterns that are stopping you from coming into deeper layers of emotional intimacy. Okay? So this is an empowering one. Now, the deeper purpose, because we have karma that we're working through to transmute pain into clarity. The question that we want to ask ourselves is, what are those attachments and defenses about? What are they protecting? And how can we come into going beyond those protections and into the pain there and that vulnerability and those emotions so we can really see what's underneath the hood? Okay? We're here to reclaim your energy and stand in your self-sourced power. You will notice that with the solar eclipse, it's going to reveal to you where you still place expectations, attachments to the external environment, and how those attachments drive your sense of safety. You're going to be removing those things and saying, my safety is within inside of myself, my presence is inside of myself, my power is within inside of myself. Okay? And it's about learning how to internalize that so that you're not giving it away. All right? Cool. So let's move over to the 9th house of this solar eclipse. And so this is for you who has the solar eclipse landing in your 9th house of your astrology chart. It's going to look something like this. All right, let's go and explore what this means for you. Okay. So the 9th house of the astrology chart has to do with the way that we begin to look at the life from a broadened perspective. Okay. It's how our eyes open up and they're not focused like this, but they become peripheral like that. So we start paying attention to the things that are broader than just what's in front of us like this. So if the solar eclipse is landing over here, it's an invitation for you to really expand and really open up and really see what's possible in your life beyond what you imagine, right? This is about going on an adventure. This is about opening up. This is about seeing what's possible in your life. And I know you've been feeling this in some way, shape, or form, that there's a restlessness to go and explore and expand and invest in something that really matters to you. So the lesson that's going to come along with this is examine your worldview and then ask yourself the question, what's ready to evolve? What's ready to evolve, right? What are you ready to confront in that worldview that allows you to go beyond it and see a bigger picture, see a wider view, explore something broader? The challenge that's going to come along with this archetypal energy for us and for you is confronting internalized truths that no longer serve, okay, even if they once gave you meaning. This is going to be a tough one because our sense of worldview has an inherent safety in it. When we challenge that inherent worldview, we're also threatening our internal feeling of safety because our identity is deeply connected to that worldview. It's how we orientate. So the solar eclipse is just looking at how you have formed certain safety anchors into this worldview that keeps you safe, but it also allows you to see things only from this point of view. Solar eclipse wants you to open up and expand more and embrace some of the vulnerability that comes with challenging your worldview and stepping into a new perspective and embracing new things and then adding to your sense of safety there, rather than letting the sense of safety collapse you into having more of a small mindset like that. Okay? So, what's the deeper purpose? Because we have karma. The deeper purpose is this: to free your mind, to walk in alignment with truth that is alive, not inherited. To walk in alignment with truth that is alive, not inherited. This is also a deep invitation with the solar eclipse to look at how you may have grown up in an environment and had certain belief systems that you've adopted or think that you need to live by, or that you've experienced as conditioning, right? This is what you should believe. These are the truths that you should follow. The solar eclipse is exposing that and saying, no, it's time to go beyond those belief systems and see what you might think or believe to be true for yourself, instead of the truths or belief systems that you might have inherited. This is a powerful one. Okay, so let's go back to the chart over here. And let's go and take a look at the 10th house of the astrological chart. So this is where the solar eclipse is going to be landing for you, okay? Solar eclipse in the 10th house. And it's going to roughly look like this. All right, first things first, the 10th house of the astrological chart has to do with the way that we show the world who we are, okay? It's the outer perspective, it's the outer vision, and it's our armoring in one way, and it's also the definition, right? Do I want to be seen in the world through the eyes of a lawyer? Do I want to be seen through the eyes of as a truck driver, right? This is what we call our career definitions or titles. This 10th house energy that I'm inviting you to come explore is actually not so much about who am I in the world, but what do I want to do in the world? The question is, what do I want to do in the world? And then build that every single day. So the lesson that comes along with the solar eclipse is this: realign your outer direction with your inner integrity. The lesson here is this: the inner world needs to drive what you want to show the outside world. The inner world needs to be coordinated and created in a foundation that reflects your interests and desires to show the world what you want to build. What do you want to leave in the world? What do you want to contribute to the world? Right? That inner identity needs to be reflecting that behavior outwards. So the behavior is just more of the action. The 10th house is just more of the action. But the inner world is where the real truth of who you exists. This eclipse wants you to align with that inner world. Don't let the external world dictate what you should be. You dictate to the world who you are. So, challenge, right? Releasing achievement patterns that were based on proving rather than purpose. Ooh, I can feel that so deeply. If you've got this solar eclipse over here, I know that with that Virgo energy in the 10th house, you've been going, the service to the world needs to come through sacrificing and putting myself second and doing it through an achievement-based perspective so that I can have that nod on the back or the gold star or the appreciation or approval from the parents or the world, and at the cost of losing your own self. That ends here. The challenge with the solar eclipse is to break down the patterns that you feel that you need to decide your life based on other people's perceptions, and you want to be able to start beginning to follow your own purpose. So what is the deeper purpose with the solar eclipse? The deeper purpose is to serve from alignment rather than ambition. Ambition is second, serve from alignment, to build something that reflects who you are now. So you've been doing a lot of internal work, probably you've been really trying to connect with that inner alignment piece that I'm talking about. The lesson is to create that alignment. The challenge is to remove the things that no longer reflect who you are now. And the deeper purpose is to see that you're becoming more of yourself rather than stepping into the identity that you have been given, but doesn't reflect anything that's actually true to you. Okay. All right. This is for you that has the solar eclipse landing in the 11th house of the astrological chart. Okay. So this is the 11th house for you, and that's what it looks like. That's where it's roughly going to be landing for you. Let's go see what this is all about. Okay. So the 11th house has to do with community, because it has to do with the groups of people that we belong to that make us feel a deeper sense of connection to the world, to life, a deeper sense of connection to home. So the home is where the most intimate relationship dynamics exist, and then our community is the wider audience that gives us a sense of belonging. Okay? It's also the way that you actually show up in the world and you express yourself based on the alignment of the values that you associate with, right? Having groups of people say that we align with the values that you have. So this solar eclipse, what it wants to do is it wants to bring you into these lessons, these challenges, and these deeper purposes. So the lesson here is to get clear on what you're contributing to and why. This is about understanding the value that you bring to the community space, or the other way around. What does the community space bring to you in terms of value? Are they aligned? Right? So get clear on what you're contributing to the community space or to the larger association, and the other way around. What is the community space contributing to you? Okay, that's the first thing. The challenge that comes along with this, of course, is this: a sense of feeling disconnected or misaligned with group spaces, or fearing rejection if you split paths. There's another challenge over here that I want to add to that, which is also to do with the fact that, so I'll do this and then I'll talk about the next one. Feeling disconnected is a sense that your individuality doesn't align with the group identity structure, okay? That disconnection is not something that's wrong with the group or wrong with you. It's just a misalignment of value. And you want to be paying attention to where you might be dampening that feeling of disconnection, because the idea of separating from a group dynamic threatens your sense of identity, your feeling of safety. So what you'll do is you'll hide within the group dynamic, not feel that connection, but also at the same time fear actually expressing yourself and taking up space and saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I want to contribute to, because that rejection energy, right, is strong. You don't want to feel rejected. You don't want to be rejected out of the group. You might not even want to reject the group itself. Either way, rejection becomes a component that creates that disconnect. The challenge here is aware that you have outgrown certain patterns of behavior that within yourself, and they are also probably showing you the gap of where you feel you need to take up some more space and confront that fear of rejection and align with groups that actually honor your truth. So what is the deeper purpose that comes along with this energy? That was the third thing I just integrated in, by the way, because I said that there was a third thing that I wanted to add, but I already integrated it into it. It had to do with the ability to see that your self-actualization is tied to how you tell the group who you are. And if you're fearing that, you're always going to feel like you're disconnected, because nobody knows who you are because you're not showing up, being and exposing yourself. So take small steps to be able to begin saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I like to contribute. This is what belonging is. Okay. The final thing here, and this is the deeper purpose, is to find your place within the collective that honors both your individuality and your vision. That's what I was saying. The deeper purpose is that you are working through and working on connecting to finding your place in the collective that honors both your individuality, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I like, and also your vision. These are the things I value, these are the things that matter to me, this is my excitement for what I want to create. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Let's go over to the 12th house of the astrological chart, and this is for you who has the solar eclipse landing in your 12th house. This is what it will roughly look like on your chart, where it is in that Virgo sign over there, okay? Now, let's go ahead and look at what the 12th house is about. The 12th house to me is fascinating in many ways and also complicated in others, okay? It's fascinating because this 12th house energy is an incredibly healing experience for you. The healing becomes available to us when we begin to see that there are certain patterns within ourselves that we carry that we're ready to release and let go of. So the word I tend to use with the 12th house is decay, right? We're coming into a decay of certain identities that no longer represent or reflect what is true and honest for us in our lives. And we meet that decay with the challenge or the complexity, which is this exhaustion, which is why you'll find that with the solar eclipse and with other planets moving your 12th house, you actually surrender into tiredness, an idea of withdrawing into yourself and remaining away from the world because it's too much. So what's the lesson that comes along with this solar eclipse? Okay, so the lesson is allow all the cycles to complete, surrender to what is dissolving. Self-explanatory, right? Allow the cycles to complete, surrender to what is dissolving. You'll notice within your life that there are certain patterns that you've been holding up for a long period of time that now you're going, I just can't do this anymore. It's too much for me. I need to surrender it. So this is the clearing out. This is the realization that certain patterns of emotional connection, certain expressions, certain interests, certain desires have reached the core ending point. And you need to let those cycles disappear and fade gradually into the distance so that you can be rejuvenated with vitality. Because when those planets move into your first house, you're going to want to take up new energy and new space in a new way. And you need to have new space in your life. Okay? So to render to what is dissolving. Okay. The challenge that's going to come along with this is sitting in the unknown without rushing, clarity, letting go without grasping. This is a space where in the decay, in the aloneness, in the emptiness over here, I need to be doing something. I need to get this done. I need to move through here. I need to have the clarity. No, there is no clarity here. That's why I said it's a beautiful energy that's deeply healing, but it's also complicated because to us, when that fog is around, we need to solve and find that clarity. And it doesn't work like that. This is a state of acceptance that the clarity arrives in moments of pure bliss, and in otherwise it will just be confusing. It's okay. I don't know yet. That's the conversation you have with yourself. I'm not sure yet. Okay? So, letting go without grasping for new things. Being okay with just being the emptiness for a while. So what is the deeper purpose? Well, the deeper purpose is to come home to yourself in the quiet. So returning to the core of the being without all of the impressions and identities and expectations and demands and impressions of the world that have been onto your identity. You're just kind of letting that flood away and flow away until eventually you come to the core being of your inner stillness. This is this energy that's returning you back to that space to remember who you are, and you're never separate from the whole. It's just that core being of energy that is truth for you, and the onion layers that are being taken away until eventually you get to a space of cleanness, clean slate, so that when that sun moves into your first house, bang, you've got new energy and new experiences and new opportunities, and you've got space for that now. Okay? All right. So let's go back to the home section. Okay, so the summary of this solar eclipse is simply like this, right? The eclipse is not asking you to be perfect. Okay, it's not asking you to be perfect about how you clean out these things or how you go about doing all of the things that I shared with you in the house location. It's asking you to become more honest, with what's arising and what's showing up for you. And I've given you all of the lesson, the challenge, etc. And it's to refine what needs to be cleared out, to simplify what needs to be taken in terms of action, and to realign with what is actually essential for you. Okay. Now, one thing that I wanted to quickly say before we close up for today's video is that I've been receiving a lot of messages from people saying they'd like to have readings with me, they'd like to have one-on-one sessions with me. And a long time ago, I made the commitment to working with people on a long-term basis because I saw that there was so much more value in deep understanding of the astrology chart. So again, the reason why the Learn Your Chart Immersion was created was to be able to give people the opportunity to go through their entire astrology chart and to really understand the scope of what you have come here to do and how to be able to navigate this world with a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. So part of the Learn Your Chart Immersion experience is me saying, this is how I will work, how I can work with you. And at the end of the Learn Your Chart Immersion, there's actually a one-to-one integration call with me where you work with me personally. And that's how, if you want to work with me and do one-on-one conversations, it's through the Learn Your Chart Immersion, because it's that process that gives you the best value and the deepest connection. And again, I'm there to help you at the end integrate all of those experiences, okay? And because we're running this through the Eclipse portal at the moment, there's actually a discounted rate on it too. So discounted, all right? We've got a discount on it, and it's for the next 4 days. So go check out the link down below in the description. There's a whole page describing it. And I hope to be able to read your astrology chart with you and also give you that deeper insight into what it means to really immerse yourself in your chart. All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video and enjoy this eclipse. Bye.